My name is David Storobin. I'm an attorney. I run my own law firm. I started my law firm about 7 years ago. And at this point, we have 4 lawyers. We have multiple other staff in my law firm. I've been involved in politics pretty much since I came to the United States. I came here in 91, lived in Dallas until 92, and then I came to the United States. And in 93, I got involved in the Rudy Giuliani campaign. I worked out of the Dove Hiking office. Um, I remember seeing, I lived in Borough Park at the time, and I remember walking on 13th Avenue, and all of a sudden I see a man speak, and I realized that it was Rudy Giuliani. And I was very impressed with that because coming from the Soviet Union, you can't really campaign with Jews in the Soviet Union. It's really going to be politically bad because of the anti-Semitism there. And all of a sudden I'm walking, and there are people who are visibly, identifiably Jewish. People that Rudy Giuliani knows these are Jewish people, and he's standing there in the middle of a Jewish neighborhood, and he's speaking to them, and he's campaigning amongst them, and that impressed me very much because that's really what I came to the United States for. My family was very successful in the Soviet Union. Most of my family members were engineers, doctors, professors. They've abandoned and they left everything, and they became cleaning women and cab drivers and other minimum wage workers for the first many years in the United States. But what they were looking for is to not be degraded for being
How
Jewish.
would you go about it if elected?
Okay, well, there's a long-term plan, there's a short-term plan. In the short term, we need to make sure that there has to be tuition relief of every single different type. Why? Because people who are observant and people who are not both pay taxes, but only the non-observant people get the benefit in terms of educational expenses by the government, and that is incredibly, incredibly unfair. Incredibly unfair. Beyond that, people who are, let's say, poor, like I grew up very poor, if they live in a bad neighborhood with bad schools, they should not be forced to send their children to that school because they can't afford to go to a yeshiva, to a private school, to a Catholic school, or move into a different neighborhood. You shouldn't be punished because your parents are poor. I'm sorry, I may feel very passionately about it because I grew up very poor, but it's a very strong point that I'd like to make. You shouldn't be punished for being poor, and you shouldn't be punished for being observant. You know, so we need to make sure that people are able to afford one way or the other schools where the kind of schools that they deserve as children, as human beings. Beyond that, as a long term, we need school vouchers. School vouchers could be a revenue neutral program. What you do is, instead of saying we have to spend an X amount of money on a public school, we say here's a grant for that X amount of money. It can be spent on a public school or in a private school, including all the religious schools. And it's up to you how you spend it. Parents know how to spend what is best for their kids better than some government bureaucrats and then some unions. What I'm looking for is not a job. What I'm looking for is to make things better, and maybe just a little bit better. But I hope that by getting elected, I can make things somewhat better for the people of my district, for the people of New York City, for the people of New York State, and for the United States as a whole. I really owe this nation and this city so much. I would not have 1% of what I have. I owe this nation, and this is a way for me to hopefully pay back the United States and the Jewish community at least a little. Well, the only elected office that I have held is to be the vice chair of the Republican Party. That's inside inside the party elected office. I've never sought a political office before. I never run for office before, except for like college organizations, law school organizations, those kinds of things. Because to be honest with you, growing up and being raised in a very poor family, I needed to first try to kind of go to school, have an after-school job, get involved in civic organizations. I didn't have a lot of the opportunities to run for office. It takes a lot of support to
Right now, do you have any support from within the Republican Party?
Oh yeah, very much so. The Republican Party is very much on board. A lot of community organizations are very much on board. You know, I've been in the United States for 20
Do you have
years.
any list of endorsements?
Well, in the Republican Party, the chairman of the Republican Party has endorsed me. Obviously, the young Republicans have endorsed me. Um, all the local clubs are very much on board. There was a unanimous vote in support of my candidacy by all the executive committee meetings. From what I understand, every single person who is active in the Republican Party is very much on board with my candidacy. I don't know one person who is even iffy on this campaign. I think that every single person is very much excited. Well, Bob Turner had a great race. Bob Turner in my district pulled 66% of the vote, which is tremendously impressive. Tremendously impressive. And I have a lot of respect for Bob Turner. Obviously, we come from somewhat different backgrounds, but as somebody who is a business owner, somebody who built a company all by myself, I can have a special appreciation for someone who did the same thing. Bob Turner is a business owner. Bob Turner is somebody who went out there and created jobs. Bob Turner is not a career politician who is out there to tell people anything they want to hear. Bob Turner is out there to actually try to make things better. And the story of Bob Turner is that he walked in to donate money to another candidate to run against Wiener when he was outraged by some of Wiener's statements. He didn't even want to run for office. And in my case, I was asked to run in 08, in 09, in 2010, repeatedly. And every time I said no. But, so we have a lot of things in common in the sense that both of us are not looking for any job. We don't need a job. It's really a calling more than anything else. A lot of the people who worked in the Bob Turner campaign are helping me out right now. So I'm not going to comment on who will and who will not and when they will and when they will not endorse me. But we expect a lot of endorsement from both Republican and Democratic officials. We are very excited where this race is right now based on who's helping us. It's really been... I can honestly tell you that a month ago I didn't expect this race to be as far advanced as it is right now. You know, it's better than our most optimistic predictions. So we really think that it's very exciting, very exciting. Well, I've met with Dean Skelos and his staff several times actually before the campaign began. And Dean Skelos is a great person, and he's a great friend to the Jewish community. And he's actually come to a breakfast that I organized with rabbinical and business leaders in southern Brooklyn. We had about 24 rabbis, and we had another 5 or 6 dozen business leaders in our community come to the breakfast that I organized. He also has been someone who is very much supportive of this run. He's called me to encourage me. He has made he's helped us out in many different ways. And not just my own campaign, but I would like to say as a Jew, there's a bigger issue that he's really been a friend of the Jewish community. This is someone who, before he got elected to the Senate, by the way, before that, when he was not a politician, he was smuggling tzitzis into the Soviet Union before Perestroika. The man is not even Jewish. A lot of the politicians in Brooklyn, and I will, in this case, I will say that it's Democratic politicians. They have decided to pick sides with you. Vouchers is a long-term program, but we need to fight for it. Look at how many programs that people have said, oh, we can't achieve that. Both on the right and on the left. I mean, we're talking about a lot of things. On the left, just recently, we had gay marriage, which I strongly oppose. But we just recently had it passed. Where 5 years ago, it was unimaginable. On the right, when it comes to vouchers, we can do the same thing. We can get vouchers. You look around New York State, and in district after district, you find that most of the people, whether they're Republican or in many cases Democrat, they support vouchers. A lot of communities, the Jewish community, the Catholic community, the African American community, a lot of them support school vouchers. And yet their politicians have chosen to sell out to special interests. Not just to sell out, but to sell the children of their own districts, the welfare of their children, the future of their children, just to get some benefit from special interests. And that can't happen. We need to organize and make sure that these people are forced to take a stand. There has to be a law, and they have to vote yes or no. Do you support vouchers? Not just give a speech, but do you actually support vouchers? Do you support all those programs like TAP grants that Senator Skelos just passed? Do you support busing for schools, private schools? Do you support funding for mandatory programs that government tells schools to provide? That schools may or may not have to provide, but government tells them to provide. Do you support all of that? Let them vote. Let them vote and show where they stand. In Florida this year, they're having a referendum on vouchers. We need to have that referendum. We need to show where the people stand. And we need to fight. And the fact is that if you don't fight, you will definitely lose. But if you fight, you can win. And in this case, because we do have a strong majority of New York State. Last poll I saw, and maybe things change, and the last poll I saw was close to 70% of New York State that actually supports school vouchers. Where are all those politicians in those districts? Where are they fighting for their population? That's what we need. That's a major, major, major issue. And it's shameful that my opponent is opposed to that. Because special interests that are backing him, that are giving money to his campaign, or that are otherwise helping him, are opposed to that. It is shameful. You don't sell children's future for support from special. In the past, I've actually helped out some Democrats. I worked for some, not worked, but I volunteered for some Democrats. There's nothing wrong with being a Democrat. There's nothing wrong with being a Tea Party member. It is not about a set of ideology. It's about a person. There are many, many great people who are of every, not every, but almost every mainstream political persuasion. And so, when Lou Fiddler, I mean, he doesn't really. The main issue that I have with him is that he refuses to debate what we are trying to do. He's engaged in name calling, and he's engaged in attacks against my family. And there's just no room for that. We need to get beyond that. On our side, we've debated issues. We may be right, or we may be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong to support vouchers. I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm going to be very clear that I think I'm very right to support vouchers. But let's have Lou Fiddler come in and say why he disagrees with me. Let's have Lou Fiddler come in and say why he supports gay marriage, and I will say why I'm opposed to it. Let's discuss tax policy. Let's discuss funding for Jewish groups, for the LGBT groups that he funded, for all the other groups that we are dealing with. But we need to end the name calling, the vicious, brutal name calling. Today, Agudat Israel and a lot of other rabbis came together to condemn Lou Fiddler's vicious and brutal name calling against me, using the memory of murdered Jews to try to scare people against somebody like myself who's suffered from anti-Semitism more than a lot of people can imagine. I've had relatives in my lifetime get killed. Somebody chose to link to an article of mine when I was a journalist. Somehow, I'm responsible for that when I didn't even know that they linked to my article. Any journalist, you or anyone else who puts out articles can have links to him for any reason. And when they were pressured by journalists like Colin Campbell and some others on what are the links, they couldn't answer anything because there are no links. If I had links to the Nazis, they'd kill me. These are the people who wiped out all 4 of my grandparents' families. And he engaged in the most brutal name calling. And for that reason, organizations, major Jewish organizations, have come together to condemn and to say that this is an outrage, not against me. The problem is not that he called me names. If he called me names personally, I'm in politics. What do you expect? What do you expect? You got into politics, there will be some mud thrown at you incredibly unfairly, but you should expect it. But this is an insult to the Jewish community and to every decent person out there, to abuse the memory of murdered Jews, including my relatives. It's really shameful. It does not belong in politics. And to attack my mother for giving me a perfectly legal donation, and to say that, oh, why is your mother giving you money? It's low gutter politics. We need to get beyond it. We need to get beyond it. Let us discuss issues. If you think you are a better person to represent this district, stop the name calling. Stop harassing each other's families. Discuss the issues. Get in there, smile to each other, shake hands with each other, and stand there and say, "This is what I believe. Mr. Storobin, what do you believe?" And I will say, "This is what I believe." "Mr. Fiddler, what do you believe?"
So
That's what we need.
why clean the website? Why was that cleaned all of a sudden then?
That has nothing to do with me. I'm not the editor, and I haven't been the editor in years.
Do you know who cleaned
The people who run the website. There was no. They decided that they do not want to be involved in this race, apparently, which is fine. You know, just as with a lot of nonprofits, when you're like I'm a member of a nonprofit, they sent me a letter saying that they do not want me to use their organization to fundraise, to campaign there, to use their organization to promote my political run. I don't know why the website decided to do it, but I would assume it's for that reason. My articles are still very much available. The person who is doing the main attack dog for the Fiddler campaign has said that he had a year to read them. He's read all of them, and he found them to be, quote, boring. He said that all I'm discussing is international politics, like the flat tax in Estonia and the tax policy in Hong Kong and some other stuff. Okay? The fact that they're using this, they have nothing.
So do you
Their
wonder?
person has said that he's read everything. And this is all they can find. That somebody without my knowledge, somebody who would kill me had they met me, somebody who did not say that they agree with me.
So do you right now
Linked to it.
deny that you had anything
Absolutely.
to do? Okay.
Absolutely. And
But
like I
what
said,
did you ever give interviews to those groups?
I never give interviews to those groups. There was a separate publication that published op-ed articles, okay, of all different types of views, but I did not see anything that, or don't remember anything that was out of the mainstream. It was some liberals, some conservatives, some people who are for higher tax, some people who are for lower tax. It's just an op-ed website.
So would you challenge right now Lou Fiddler to produce what he's claiming?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the website that I published had nothing to do with all those other websites that chose to link to it. Not a lot of them, by the way. There's like one or two or something websites. They had nothing to do with them. Nor did I have anything to do with them. I didn't go to whatever website that he is listing and say, "Hey, can you publish something?" This was not even like a journal, those places. Those are forums. Anyone in a forum can post anything they want. Anyone can link to anyone they want. I can link to you, you can link to me. This interview that I'm doing right now, for all I know, anyone can link to me. People who believe that, moon is made of blue cheese can link to this particular story. That doesn't mean that I am responsible for those people who believe that moon is made of blue cheese, and nor are you responsible for that as a journalist, nor if you interviewed me right now, are you responsible for my points of view. I don't know what you believe. So I just told you what I believe. I support lower taxes, I support school vouchers, I'm opposed to gay marriage. I don't know where you stand on those issues. Just because you were interviewing me doesn't mean anything. But in those cases, I didn't even interview with them. With the people who were the real hateful people who decided to put a link. There was no connection to them. They just chose to put a link. Not even the whole article, but just a link with like some quotes. And it's an outrage. It's an assault on free speech. It's an assault on media. It's an assault on reason. It's an assault on logic. And most of all, it's an assault on the Jewish community, and it's an assault on all those people who died in concentration camps, like my relatives. Well, the support that I'm getting, and I just mentioned the support that he's getting from special interests like the LGBT groups and unions and so on. But the support that I'm getting in my case, if you look at the donations, and I've been attacked by my opponent over it, is from my friends and family. That's who's been helping me. With very few exceptions. I mean, there will be some people who are just very politically involved, and some of them will come in and volunteer for me, and some of them will donate small amounts of money, $25, $50, $100, maybe at the most. But I mean, the first person to donate money to me was my mother, and Lou Fiddler has repeatedly attacked my mother over that, which I think is shameful to attack family for any reason, but in particular, he didn't say that she did anything wrong. He's just saying, why is it that his family is donating money to him? Well, I don't have special interest to donate money to me. I'm not a politician. I mean, I know that when you say I'm running for office, people just say you're a politician. The fact is that I'm not. I can't do people favors, and I haven't been able to do people any favors for since I was born. And I don't have all those political contacts with all those special interests. I am, I'm David. I mean, literally, I'm David. Nobody calls me by my last name. Nobody calls me with any title. I'm not Councilman David. I'm not Senator David. I'm not anything. Not even Mr. Storobin to anyone. To anyone. I feel uncomfortable when people call me that. I'm David to every single person out there. And who's going to help me? I mean, it's my mother. It's my other relatives. It's my other friends. It's people who've known me for 5, 10 years. And I'm sure Lou Fiddler will probably beat up on me more, saying, oh, look at this. It's not only his mother donating money to him, it's also his cousins and his friends and the guy he went to high school with and the guy he went to college with. Okay, but that's all I have. I mean, to be honest, if you were running for office, that's all you would have. Mr. Fiddler knows it. It defies logic what he says. My Rabbi Tokarski, stood there and he said, Mr. Fiddler knows that this is false. And it's true, Mr. Fiddler does know that it's false. But he also knows that he cannot run on his platform. He cannot win the Jewish vote running against school vouchers and running on for gay marriage. He cannot do that. So he needs to try to use the most hateful language, the most vicious language. And there's just no place for that. Mr. Fiddler, here's a message to you. Please, stop. There's life beyond this election. Stop besmirching your own name. Stop abusing the memory of the victims of the genocide of the Jewish people. Stop it. This job is just not worth it. You're still a lawyer, and so am I. We don't need this job this badly. We just don't. Stop it, Mr. Fiddler. Stop it.
Would you debate him in a public forum?
Absolutely debate him in any proper, legitimate forum. There is civic organizations, media organizations. Any legitimate forum, we will be glad to debate Mr. Fiddler. When it comes to issues, we side with the majority of the district. And the more people find that out, the more support we have. So we want to stand there and draw a contrast. This is what Mr. Fiddler believes. This is what we believe. We want people to know that. And then they can make a choice. If people believe that he would make a better state senator, they should vote for him. If people believe that I would make a better state senator, they should vote for me. But we are very confident that my ideology and what I've done in my life is far, far closer to the district's majority than Mr. Fiddler's.